because we know the importance of building trust. And how we do that is by being visible, because when you're visible, you're creating credibility, which is creating loyalty, and that's good for business.
Welcome to the Legacy Branding Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Beauparlant, here to guide you through the journey of selling your business and building a personal brand that leaves a lasting impact. On the show, we'll explore real-life founder stories, expert insights, and actionable strategies to help you navigate the transition, avoid post-sale crisis, and create your impact-driven legacy brand. Whether you're thinking of selling, building to sell, or already on the other side, this podcast is your go-to resource for making your next evolution your best one yet. Let's dive in. Today on the Legacy Branding Podcast, I'm very excited to welcome Julie Cole. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, recovered lawyer, best-selling author, and the mom of 6. Julie is the co-founder of Mabel's Labels, an award-winning brand that started in a basement and grew to a multi-million-dollar company, revolutionizing the durable label market for families everywhere. She's also a sought-after speaker, media contributor, and fierce advocate for women's leadership and entrepreneurship. Her insights have been shared on NBC's Today Show, The Marilyn Denis Show, and in publications like The Huffington Post, The Globe and Mail, and Today's Parent. Whether she's speaking, writing, or navigating the chaos of family life, Julie brings authenticity, humor, and heart to everything she does. Julie, welcome to the show.
Oh, Laura, thanks for having me. So good to see you and hear you.
I know it's been a while since we've seen each other, even in person, let alone on a call like this. So I feel like we have a million things also to catch up on. But I want to chat with you about this journey of co-founding and selling Mabel's Labels. And then you're still involved in it as a senior director. So you went from founder, entrepreneur in a basement, building this business, to now an employee of the company that you co-founded, but no longer own. So I feel like there's a lot of different questions in that one question, but what was that experience like and the shift for you?
Yeah, it's not a typical way of doing things. When usually a business gets acquired, the founders eventually exit. You might want to stick around for a year, or sometimes it's in the contract to stick around for 3 years to make sure it's a smooth transition, which most founders are quite happy to do because you want there to be a good transition. You love the company that you created and that you built. But depending on who acquires your company, it can be a tough transition. So if you, for instance, get acquired by a company and then they completely change things around and they're making decisions that you wouldn't make, then that can be a difficult journey. I have friends who have been like dead inside after the 3-year mark because they just did not love their company anymore. And in their minds, it just wasn't what it was, a shell of what it was. And sometimes companies get acquired because that's the point. People sometimes acquire companies to get rid of competition or whatever. So the journey for me has actually been quite smooth and really nice. And I think the reason behind that mostly, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that I just love the brand. I love what we created, and you don't fall out of love with it just because you sell. But the other thing too is that, when the sale happened, it wasn't, one of the reasons we agreed to it was that they were keeping the Mabel's Labels brand. We are still in our same location. We still have our same core values. So it really is the same company, but it feels very backed up now we have access to resources that we didn't have access to. So it's sort of like Mabel's on steroids, which is great. So for me, it was a great transition. Now, keep in mind, I've been there now something like 8 years, and that is almost unheard of. But I'm still having fun. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still contributing, and the team is stronger and more fun than ever.
I love that. So how has your role shifted from what you were doing before to today, or has it really?
Right. So in a way it hasn't. And I think part of the transition that was easier for me too was that although I was on the leadership team and I was doing the strategic planning and I'm still doing all that, Now we've got a general manager and we've got an operations manager. So I'm not as involved operationally, and I wasn't as involved operationally when the acquisition happened. So a lot of my role, and you'll appreciate this, Laura, is the power of personal branding. And what my co-founders really wanted from me was to be the face of the brand and to go out there and to speak and to connect with moms and to be part of that mom community, because we know that moms trust brands that are personal. So a lot of what I was doing then is what I'm still doing now. And that's basically being the company spokesperson. Though, of course, I do have those other things like going to a next week, a 3 day strategic planning session, like all that stuff's still there, but I don't have like a bunch of people reporting to me. I'm not doing a bunch of performance appraisals. I'm basically like, they're like, get out there and make it rain for Maple's labels and do all the connecting, like be that human. And that's what I love. That's my sweet spot. So everybody go to your zone of genius and thrive there, right?
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned personal brand because you have such a powerful personal brand. Your name is very well known and it is separate from, but has a beautiful relationship to Mabel's labels. So people hear Julie Cole and they think Mabel's labels.
Right. And that's how like you can use, and you know this is your gig, but how you can use that personal brand to elevate a professional brand, right? And bring humanness to it. And I think it's ever so important now in these times of AI. People want that real human touch, that real human connection, especially when you know who your customer is. And like I said, ours is mom. And mom doesn't want to buy from that nameless, faceless brand. She wants to also buy from somebody like her.
Yeah. And that is you.
That's me.
And I think it's such an important conversation. I've been having this with so many founders that are thinking of exiting around the importance of their personal brand. And I think a lot of times when you're thinking of selling the business, if you looked at the business, it is maybe very founder centric, or the personal brand is so deeply intertwined that you don't know where one ends and the other begins. And what defines the founder's personal brand versus the business, and really helping them to tease that out so they have this personal brand that can help really build the business, but also if they do sell and they do leave, they have that to take with them.
Right, right. And also, I mean, you see this also with founders that leave, is that if they're so entwined with the brand, if they identify as the brand, and this doesn't even have to be the spokesperson, this can just be a founder who never even goes out into the world, but the brand defines it. When they leave, then they really do have an identity crisis and they don't know who they are. They don't know what to do next. And they can get a little bit of paralysis. So I often coach founders into saying, make sure that you have other things going on in your life. You're more than your company. Maybe you're also a parent. Maybe you're a friend. Maybe you have a hobby. Maybe you do philanthropic endeavors. Maybe you mentor. All of those things make up part of you as well. And don't forget that. It's like you see it in lots of things, like with sports. If somebody defines themselves as a hockey player and they blow a knee, who are they? Or you think your kids are everything. Well, guess what? They leave the nest. Then what? If you're not really a mother, or you're not mothering the same way anymore, again, that identity crisis can happen. So I've really seen that. So I always try to tell people, just make sure that, yes, you're a personal brand that's tied to your professional brand, but also you want to make sure that you don't lose you in it all.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I talk about this all the time, Julie. So it is important. And I think the way I describe it is we are multifaceted people. We have different things that we love to do and we're good at, that we're passionate about. And we are not just defined by our business. As entrepreneurs, we often spend a huge amount of our time in our business. And it does become very, very personal. And so teasing that out is so important. And you mentioned that crisis. What we do is, the goal for us, the mission is to help prevent the existential crisis that happens to founders after they exit. They can share their gift with the world. They can exit with impact and really create their legacy brand. And that is very much tied to their personal brand and how they want to be known and the impact they want to create.
And not everybody is like, not all co-founders are that sort of public facing. For the four of us, they were like, Julie, you do that because that's your natural thing. Like you go out there, but it doesn't mean you can't sort of create something afterwards, or you don't have to. I mean, this isn't something that is for everyone, like not necessarily going out there, but you can create your personal brand doesn't mean you're public facing. There's so many little areas and different things to it. That can be like what you bring to your next C-suite job or what you bring to your next adventure. It doesn't necessarily have to be that sort of public facing persona if that's not really your gig. The other thing I think is something that I am very mindful of is that, so interestingly, when you start a company, you're in the unique position to create a company around core values that you believe in. So, you make sure your team and your co-founders are all aligned on your core values. And often that comes from a lot of your personal core values. Like my family core values look very much like my business core values, right? So
Funny how that happens.
yeah, funny how that is. But it is interesting too, because you definitely feel now having been acquired, yes, that's still all in place. But I do have to be mindful of, I don't want to alienate anyone who doesn't think exactly the same way I do. So there are certain things that are like non-negotiable that I do not budge on. And those are things around inclusivity and diversity. We have our things. But then, some things you have to be like, okay, now if I speak about this. So it is something that I feel like I've got the balance, but I think it can be something that you struggle with is that if you are repping the brand through your personal brand, you have to be mindful that you're repping the brand, right? In your everyday. Yeah. So that can be a funny balance. And I don't think everybody nails it. And also, I think they can struggle with finding that balance where they still feel like their authentic self, but they're not doing something the brand's going to be like, naughty you, right?
Yeah. And it's funny, I just did a talk last week and I was talking about the fact that your personal brand can make or break your business, right? So you could be doing things. How many times have we heard a story about somebody getting fired from a job, maybe as an employee, somebody losing their seat on the board of their company? You know, like look at what Elon Musk is doing right now with Tesla. The Tesla stock is tanking because of Elon Musk's personal opinions and personal brand. The stock is having an impact. That's huge. That's like the case study of how your personal brand can damage your business.
Oh, and it totally reflects. I'm going to throw it back to, do you remember? You're going to remember this, Lauren. Some of the listeners might as well. Do you remember years ago, a woman got on a flight in the US or in the UK, and she was flying to Africa, and she sent out a tweet. Her name was Jessica something. And she sent out a tweet making a derogatory comment about Africa. It was AIDS related, and there was a racial undertone. I can't remember all the details, but by the time she landed in Africa, like we had all been up all night watching this explode. Like this was, and I mean, obviously she was on Twitter. She was greeted by a senior at her company in Africa who met her at the airport and fired her. Like that's all that happened. Anytime that you are connected to a company, you are representing your company. And that's why even your staff who you hire, they're your best brand ambassadors. So you want to make sure you get the right people on your team because they're repping you out there, right?
Yeah, you want to make sure they are your best brand ambassador.
And that's where it comes down to core values. Make sure they align. Integrate your core values into your interview questions. Hire and fire by them because these people rep your company and they can bring it down or they can raise it up.
I remember that story and it was funny. I was doing some research recently on like stories about founders or people losing their job for a talk. And that story about that woman's tweet about Africa, like one sentence, she derailed her entire career and got fired.
She was like unhireable for a while. It was like that first taste of like getting canceled, right? Like that was like the OG. And you can see now when those things happen, how impactful it is for a company. And I remember one as well where a company, it was Papa John's in the US. And you know what happens is like sometimes the servers will describe the family or describe the person so that they know who they're going to. Well, this Asian woman came out of the restaurant and saw that they had called her Lady Chinky Eyes. Yes. So she did one tweet. She only had about 90 followers. Well, that went everywhere. And wow, Papa John's, did they ever get themselves? So you hire your servers who aren't going to say things like that. They had to pull in all sorts of like training. They had to fire people. They had to do a whole because of that kind of racism. And that's a staff member who makes your brand look bad. So you need to think about this in all of your hiring and firing.
And that's why when I work with clients, I always say like, It's so important to build the foundation of your brand, to really understand, what do you stand for? Why does this company exist? What do you want to be known for? What's the feeling and experience you want people to have? And it can't just be top of the business. Like, your employees need to understand this and feel it and be able to represent it. So if you've got that strong foundation and values, it'll make it so much easier to hire people or to fire them because they're actually not living up to it. I remember years ago working with a client, we did a whole rebrand and built out all the messaging. And one of her team members, who she wasn't sure was the right fit, said to her, well, after we had done this work together, doesn't really work for me or doesn't fit me. And that was just confirmation for her that, in fact, she wasn't the right team member because she didn't feel that. And
Right.
so it's not just the founder who needs to work on the business brand, but the whole business and team needs to understand that this is who we are and what we represent. And I also believe that every person has a personal brand, whether they like it
Agreed.
or not, whether they're intentional. That includes every member of your team, my team, every company. And so people think, well, that's just who they are. But imagine if everybody really worked on that and they became known for something even inside the company. Maybe it would help them get the promotion. Maybe their personal brand could help build the business, which means they feel like they're a part of something. They get promotions, they get raises, they build their career. Maybe another company decides they want to hire them because of what they're seeing, they're sharing online.
People always had this idea that personal brand was for people like Steve Jobs or Oprah Winfrey or whatever. And it's like, no, everybody, whether you like it or not, whether you want one or not, you got one, right?
It's saying what you want it to say.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny what you say about like corporate values and corporate culture, like those things, and companies sometimes do this wrong because they set it all up here, like at the top with the CEO, but it's felt bottom up. Like that's where they really feel it. So you need to be really mindful of that when you're setting that. And are you living it, or is it just some like poster on a wall somewhere?
Yeah. Does everybody know how to answer the phone, respond to emails, interact with teammates? Like, I love that. I've been doing some team personal branding engagements, and I love that because the things they're learning about each other and how they can connect and understand the power of that. And there's so many stats around how personal brands get so much more reach and visibility, leads convert greater. So they really do have an impact. Hey, founders, quick shameless plug for the sponsor of this podcast and my company, Lab Creative, where we help ambitious founders untangle their personal brand from their business so they can position the company to sell and build a personal brand for their next evolution. If that sounds like you, head to labcreative.ca to check out our work and to book a call with me. Or if you want to just dip your toe in first, grab a copy of the Founders Brand Playbook. It's our free step-by-step guide to building a brand that attracts premium buyers and creates opportunities for you post-sale. You can download it at labcreative.ca/playbook. You mentioned earlier about being that forward-facing. You and I are both speakers. We're authors, we're on podcasts and things. So we are that persona, right? We have those really strong personal brands, which are kind of what I think most people envision a personal brand to be. And a lot of people go, well, that's not me. I don't want to be a Laura or a Julie. Maybe I'm an introvert, but there's other ways for them to leverage it. I say, you don't need to have a personal brand website like you or I do, but you need to have a social media presence. What are you saying? What do you want to be known for? Maybe it is for that next thing or that thought leadership, or maybe it's a future book or whatever that is. It is that perception that you put out there online.
I do agree with you 100%. I do think you do have to be visible. And I know that some people, especially some CEOs or some founders, they're like, oh, I'm behind the scenes. I'm a worker bee. I'm not that person. But because we know the importance of building trust, and how we do that is by being visible. Because when you're visible, you're creating credibility, which is creating loyalty. And that's good for business. So yes, you know what? You do have to be out there. And at the end of the day, people are talking about your industry. Do you want to be a part of the conversation? Because it's happening with or without you. So maybe you don't want to be a Julie or a Laura, but you can keep a finger on the pulse. You can like comments. You can be a thought leader on LinkedIn. You can contribute an article. Do challenge yourself, like make it part of your marketing plan. I'm going to ask to go on 2 podcasts this month. I'm going to turn up at 1 networking face-to-face event. I'm going to ask if I can write a blog post for whatever. Like challenge yourself to be more visible, because at the end of the day, it is important. You don't have to be a Julia or a Laura to do it, but you got to do something.
Oh, that's definitely getting put into a quote or something. I love it. Oh my gosh. So, and we talked about being multifaceted, and you're a recovering lawyer. You have 6 kids. You're a speaker. You are an author. You do many things. You're an advocate. And you are quite outspoken about so many things. And I would love to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the juggling of family and ambition as a mother as well, and an entrepreneur. Like, that balancing act is a lot. And you have 6 kids.
Yeah.
Maybe that's helpful because they can also
Yeah,
help raise each
exactly.
other.
Yeah, like I didn't have to play My Little Ponies. I was like, go find a sibling. That's kind of why I had them, right? Like, and I really found it was so funny. It was actually through COVID that I'm like, aha, this is really paying off. Because at that time I had 2 away at university. They got sent home. And like my kids all just like, they're all in the pool. They're all playing Dungeons and Dragons together and having movie nights and going for hikes. I'm like, aha, this is all turned out. We've got our own little community here.
Exactly.
But it certainly hasn't been without its challenges. I mean, in those early days in the basement when we were making labels till 2 a.m., then I'm getting up at 6 a.m. with kids. And the fact of the matter is, people do romanticize entrepreneurship. I think it's going to be all TED Talks and book deals and $1 million acquisitions. And it really just looks like making labels in a basement for a long time, and doing without things, doing without like new cars and doing without holidays because you gave up a salary in order to do this. And for me too, part of the balancing act was I had to make sure, like one of the reasons Mabel's Labels started was my eldest child got diagnosed with autism. So I wanted to be able to provide a very intense ABA program for him. Well, guess what? That's very expensive. So I also wanted to make sure that Daddy-O is getting up and getting into his job every day refreshed so that he could bring in the money so that I could start a business and pay for this kid's ABA. So people are always like, well, did he get up and help in the night? I'm like, I wouldn't have woken him up. I needed a cash cow. I needed somebody to. So I did carry a lot of the load very intentionally in those early days, because that allowed me to be able to start a company and for us to be able to provide financially in ways that we really wanted and needed to. So there's a lot of sacrifice. And I've got to tell you, like, I didn't sleep for 10 years. Like, when you talk about balance, I would go to sleep for 2 hours, get up, feed someone, go to sleep for 3 hours. And that was it for 10 years. Now, not getting sleep in those days was a bit of my superpower. So you got to know what you're capable of. A lot of people can't do that. So don't even try. If you're going to be a bear and fall into a depression because of lack of sleep, don't do it. Don't have 6 kids or don't start a business, whatever. You just do what works for you. And that's what I did. And I really think, as far as balance goes, like, my kids are independent and I didn't baby them. They made their own lunches early. If they forgot a lunch at school, I didn't go and drop it off. Like, it's like, oh, that sucks. It's a drag when that happens. But that's because I didn't have time to be chasing 6 kids around. And I'm a big fan of natural consequences. I've never punished a child. I've never had to, because nature's kind of just done it for them. So I've been able to make them appreciate that I have to be highly productive, and they've been contributors in the family. So it's worked. And I got help eventually. It took me a while, but I finally got a nanny after my 5th kid turned 1. That was 3 kids too late. Don't do what I'm doing. Get help early. Get help. If you can do that, do it. Get the help, because it's a slog and you want to remember it. You want to remember the old days in a fond way. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And you do have to make decisions. You have to set boundaries, and you have to make other people respect that you have to be highly productive. And in doing that, you have to respect your own productivity.
Yeah. Do you think being a parent, especially of 6 kids, that impacted your leadership style, the way you showed up in your business, the way you dealt with your time?
Right. Yeah, I do think that there are so many parallels I find between business and raising a family. Like, so many. That's a whole other topic. But certainly, yeah, you see that A couple of things in particular, like your leadership style is what it is, and you can get better at it. You can make improvements. You can do all that stuff. And it is funny how it's the same sort of in your family and in your work. And I do find like the way with my kids, I mean, I do accept them for who they are. I have the kids I have, not the kids I would have imagined or wanted or whatever. Like you can't order these things, right? And in doing that, like they all bring so much value and they're all so interesting. And I try to really foster that, right? And then you see that with your team as well. They all bring something different. I don't need a bunch of Julie clones at Mabel's Labels. I want them to be smarter or different. So you learn to appreciate everybody for what they bring and not for what you maybe thought they needed to bring. So I would say that, like, I've got this one kid, it's funny. They're a big bird bander. So they like to band birds. And I remember like I would be driving them out to this park on 6 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And I'm like, this isn't the like braggable stuff on Facebook that your kid just made like top cheer team or playing rep hockey and got a hat trick. I'm like, I'm driving out to bird banding, right? But it's awesome. Like this kid is so confident. Now they're like amazing. So like just encouraging them at what they love and supporting them in that, both at work and at home, brings out the best in people.
I love that. I love the parallels, and I think that's a beautiful share. So thank you.
And the other one too is, which is quite funny, is that like I thought I'm a baby person. I know what to do with babies. And then you have toddlers. You're like, oh wait, now I got to deal with toddlers. And then you're like, oh, I have school age kids. And now like me and you, we got teenagers. This is a whole thing we didn't sign up for, right? And it's the same with business. It is that getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. Because soon as you think I'm in the startup phase, I know what I'm doing, then you're like, oh wait, technology has changed, marketing has changed. Oh wait, we need to hire people. I don't know anything about HR. So as soon as you think you know what you're doing, you need to know more and you need to pivot. And it's the same with kids. Their needs change and evolve, and so do your business needs.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me. I did a talk years ago and I literally related the stages of your child to the stages of the business. And I was like, the baby, it's like your business baby, and then it's your business toddler, and then it's your adolescent, and then it's like each time there's new challenges, there's new growth, there's new amazingness, there's maybe some setbacks, some pivots, some unexpected things. So that just reminded me of that.
And it's so true. And I even thought about this. I have 5 kids at university. So in September, I've had 4 this year. But it's funny because when everybody's home, they just kind of like they have this like thing, like the 6 of them. And I remember saying to them last time they were all home, maybe Easter or something. And I said, I kind of feel like that outdated CEO who just takes a newspaper to the office and sits there to feel important. That's how I feel with you guys. You're all grown up and they're like, yeah, we're kind of our ecosystem, mom, but you can still make dinner if you like. As our kids get older, we move more into a coaching role, right? They don't need us the same way, or it shifts, it's different. And the same with your business, right? Like in theory, I should be able to get hit by a bus at Mabel's Labels and the business should be doing fine, right? And it's kind of the same. Like I know now it would be really, really, really sad and awful for my children, but they'd be okay. Like, right? Like, whereas if it had been 15 years ago and something happened to me, it would be a gong show. So you do like your business also, like we're 22 years into this. It has evolved to a place. And my youngest kid just turned 16. So businesses grow up and families grow up, and there's a lot of change that happens along the way.
Absolutely. So this podcast is called the Legacy Branding Podcast. So I always ask people about legacy. So I'd love to know from you, Julie, what does legacy mean to you, and what is the legacy that you're creating?
I guess I don't know that I'm that important. I mean, I think, I am, right? I am. It's not like it's a self-confidence thing, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm on this earth doing my best at what I can, trying to help where I can, trying to raise my kids in a way that I'm contributing positively to what's going on here. And when I make decisions, Laura, I do think 100 years out, does this matter? So if my house isn't clean all the time, that doesn't stress me out. I'd rather spend time reading to my kids than mopping my floor, because at the end of the day, does it really matter? And I think that is my secret sauce and my legacy will be at my funeral. They'll be like, okay, you know what? Julie's house wasn't always clean. She didn't make the best meals, but boy, they were always welcome. It's all fishes and loaves. I never know who's going to rock up for dinner, but everybody will get fed. And I won't say, don't come in my house because It's not clean. So it's a welcoming place. It's a place where kids feel safe. You do kind of become that house when you have this many kids, but anyone who, is having problems with like lack of acceptance from their parents, they know they'll get it from me. And that's the sort of thing that I think will carry on. And also just encouraging kids to be self-confident, to pursue their dreams, be who they are. I think that's the sort of stuff that matters most. And I hope that's what my kids and everyone I touch remembers and brings with them into the future.
That's amazing. I love the way you express that. And I'm sure that that has a huge ripple effect on the people whose lives you touch, and then, what that helps them to be able to do in their lives. So I think you are absolutely creating a beautiful legacy, and what a gift you are to your kids and your kids' friends and Mabel's Labels and the world and all the work that you do.
It's been a trip and it's been a lot of fun. Now, it hasn't been perfect and I'm not perfect and I make mistakes and all that jazz too. So we're all human, but you know what? At the end of the day, I don't beat myself up over it. I gave up mom guilt 5 kids ago. If I make a mistake, I apologize and I learn from it and I do better and I move on. That's all I got.
Yep. I think that's a life lesson for everybody. So how can people connect with you, follow you, learn more about Mabel's Labels, hire you to speak?
For sure. So probably, of course, mabelslabels.com because you want to see our awesome products. But also if you go to mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole, that's where you can find some stuff about me. And I'm in all the usual places as well, like Instagram and LinkedIn. So I'm easy enough to find, but to find stuff about me, mabelslabels.com/Julie Cole is probably the best place where everything's kind of centralized.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Julie. What an amazing conversation. I loved your insights, and it was so great to see you again.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks for tuning into the Legacy Branding Podcast. I hope today's episode has inspired and empowered you on your journey to building a brand that truly matters. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other founders who you think would benefit from listening. And if you're ready to take the next step in building your legacy brand, visit our website, labcreative.ca, to learn more and book a call. Don't forget to join us next time for more conversations that will help you navigate your transition and create your legacy. Until then, I'm Laura Beauparlant.